Buenas noches, Oracle. Um, one more. Buenas noches. My journey, my personal journey to the flat earth. I am not saying it's a flat earth, but what I am saying is this is my journey to the flat earth, okay? It's on about the photographs from the Falklands. I lost that bloody film on the plane. Freaking, oh. But I have a bag full of photos, not in the folders, just a bag with negatives and a mix up of my life. So I went through them. And so I say that I cast my mind back and I cannot remember any curvature. Now, this is important. All of these photographs are taken by me, okay? My army days when I used to live in Spain. Now, I'm not sure what plane, that's probably an RAF, I'm not sure, right? Because I travelled a lot, but you must appreciate the distance we're looking at here. These are photographs taken from a 35mm camera before the digi stuff. This is the real, so that's out of, that one kind of doesn't show anything, nor does that one, but I just used to travel so much and I always used to have a camera. I used to like taking photographs. I'm not even sure where this is. It could be, is that sand? If it could sand, it could be the Gulf. There's some coming up. My point is, all of these pics, no, right. There's some serious distances, and this would have been Machu Picchu in South America, in Peru. This I am not too sure. But again, this could this have been going to the Keys? I'm not sure. There's rock. My point is here, when I cast my mind back, initially I couldn't be objective, right? I was so convinced that it was round, I was finding curvature in my mind on the plains, thinking back. Now this here, this is Palma de Mallorca in Spain, in Mallorca, Balearic Islands. The cathedral. The cathedral. We used to go there sometimes, school trip, I think I had two, and every now and again when we used to go to Palma, my friends would sometimes walk past the cathedral, and it was a feeling of awe. It was, nobody would say anything. I've just got a couple of rainbows there. Nobody would say anything, right? We were just kids. But this thing, this cathedral, used to walk in there, and it was like you'd walked into a fairy tale. It's the only way to describe it. You knew that it was just out of place, right? But nobody, I cast my mind back, nobody even used to speak when you were inside it. Like, it would be somebody there maybe playing an organ. And it's like you stepped into a fairy tale or a nightmare. But nobody used to speak. And when you left it, it was like it never happened. It was just this place, but it was awe-inspiring, right? And my point there is, it's about the old buildings that we could find everywhere. That's not really like this here. This is in the Gulf in 1990, Gulf War. What's that? Oh, it's the sun. Okay. So always have a camera. Always taking pics. I mean, look at that. It's in the Gulf. It's a desert, right? A desert. You could just see desert, desert, desert. Talk to me about from left to right on this pic. I don't know how many kilometers or miles. Everywhere you look, we were at a stage going through the desert. It did not matter. Left, right, north, south, east, west. It was like that. And we travelled some, right? And it was flat. That's my map. I don't know what I'm showing him. That's Machu Picchu, by the way. Oh! It's Ayers Rock. Could that be a tree stump? Look, let's not go there. And here in Mallorca, I would have taken this picture in before 1983. That's how old this picture is, right? That, I'm sure, if I remember rightly, is the USS Forrestal. I've been on so many aircraft carriers. That's the Mediterranean Sea. The 6th Fleet used to do their trips. Here's another one of the cathedral. Vámonos, vámonos, vámonos. It was just hard to, I'd say close to impossible to explain the feeling of this does not belong here. Let's get the out of here. Again, just all the pictures I had that would suggest that's an RAF jet. We are high. We're at cruising altitude here. This is 30,000+ feet. Okay. But these are not doctored images. They are pics I took myself. They can't be replaced. I know. When I said there is no, I didn't ever see. Right? And then I have these. A set of 6 shots. I'm nearly positive, right, that I took these when I was living in Florida. I'm not sure where, right? Because the sun is obviously setting. So that's west. I'm not sure, right? But what I'm saying is there is the pics here are in a sequence. I remember taking them. Right, see the sun's going down, down. So that would have been the top one, the first one. Right, now, I don't know what I'm looking for right now. But when I just found these were in the bag, but not even together. It's just muddled up, the amount of shots I've got in there. But you can see, look, I'll have a look at these. I don't know what it's going to show, but now that I'm interested in this stuff, there could be something there. And the beauty, once again, is I know these are my picks. It's not, look at these people, and then you go, yeah, but is that doctored? They aren't. So this is my journey. I think it's important because a lot of people, stuff that people are saying, that there's no common sense in the flat earth. I disagree. Oracle, what do you reckon? Right. Brainstormed, trying to think, when was the first time I think it was in 2023, about 3 years ago, or maybe 2024. I'm going to settle on 2023 because it is the first real, flat. My daughter was going to do photography. She knew somebody who had a camera down in Bagara or something. I took her down to the house, and it was somebody's daughter that we knew. Now, you hear of those instances where somebody bombards you with information about something. We went there to look at the camera, and I can't remember how we started or what we started talking about. Not conspiracy, something. And then she said, do you know Earth is flat? And I went, I've heard stuff. I refused to laugh, right? Because even back then, you have a little chuckle. But out of I don't know what, I've never mocked ever. And I said, yeah, kind of heard. Bang! Half an hour. Easily. And I was looking at Sienna and looking through the camera, and she was going on and on and on and on. The thing that I'll never forget when you talk to people who believe it is the passion, how convinced they are. I could not get over that, right? Anyway, we left. I remember telling Sienna, fuck me, flat, Anyway, never saw this lady again, but wanted to. I would have talked because it was the amount of, it was overload. It's like she was rushing to try and tell me. And then it was in the back of my mind. And then a couple of years ago, next door to neighbours and that, and it comes up, when you're sizing each other out as new neighbours and this, that and the other, flat earth come up, bang. Before I know it, she was convinced, my neighbour, right? And it was one of the things, because she's smart and stuff, right? People say, lack of education. No, it's not like that. People who I know are intelligent people. This is what I said. It's not always about the theory, but you respect the people who are telling you. This is the thing, right? And then last year, it was rattling around in my head quite often. I used to talk about it a bit on here, but still, me was the speed of light and the pyramids. Speed of light, no doubt, it's absolute. There is no delay. Boom, boom. There is none. Anybody who says there is not being objective. And 150 million kilometers away, during solar eclipse, the sun is directly behind the moon. I'm not saying that it is. It could be a coincidence that it's 400 times as big, and it just so you could not say it can't happen the way that they have structured it with everything moving around and the eclipse. But one thing is for sure, whether it is 150 million kilometers away or right up the moon's culo, there's no light delay. There is none. Knowing that, seeing where the sun is, and all the lies that we have been told, there is no logical reason to think that the sun could not be local. There is not. There isn't any evidence. People say that photographs hit. I'm talking about things we can see. There's no light delay. It could be. There's no reason why it could not be a local. It wouldn't be logical to say there could not be a local sun. It just could not. The only people who are going to say this again are the people who will not accept something that contradicts what they believe, right? So I know it's absolute. They've lied about that. So why are they saying it's 150 million kilometers away? Why? By accepting it's 150 million kilometers away, you've closed the door on the flat. Is that why? All I know is there is no light delay. It's up, right, it seems to be up against the moon. Nobody can say it isn't. There is no evidence to say that it isn't, right? And then, at the beginning of this year, we're coming up to June, the last 5 months has been a blur, because I went from all of that. This was my introduction, I have to say, with my daughter when we went to see that camera. I'll never forget how convinced this lady was. That was the thing that always got me. Why is she so, but really convinced? Next door, bang, she's convinced of it. And then a couple of months ago, And I said, right, don't want to hear anything from anyone. I had a couple of books out looking to previous history, civilizations, bang, 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 bang. And then you come and, I remember when I got these, I was after some of these, and that week after, bang, these two were at the Tender Centre, the blokes. It was like that manifestation thing. Where am I going to get them from? Because I had the rubber one. Remember I used to blow them up? Bang, there they were. 2 of them. Got them for the price I wanted. Thank you. See how it works? And then, armed with these, and logic, and common sense, a couple of days, bang, bang, all angles. What have I believed? What have I seen? What have I heard? What does it look like? The science. I have been battling the speed of light for years before I came to look at this. I knew that the sun is directly behind the moon. Not the distance you don't know, but what you do know is it's directly behind the moon. So you cannot get away from this, can we? Oracle. Are you okay, guys? Sorry about that. I might have to move here. So I know they're lying about everything, right? Anyway, back to this. So 2 months ago, 3 months ago, I was immersed. I was scared because I didn't want to back away from the speed of light in the pyramids. Somebody on TikTok last year, after I did it might have been the beginning of this year, when I did a proper reason why it is absolute light and there is no delay. And it went down well. And somebody said, do you do gravity? Like I'm an impersonator. And I can remember I didn't ever want to go too far away from the speed of light or the pyramids because I didn't want to be loads of things getting mixed up. And I talk about, for years I've been speed of light and the pyramids, not the Egyptians. And then I thought about that gravity and I thought, I said, no, I've never even looked into it. I said, I just speed of light pyramids. Flat Earth still banging around. And then last few months, right? I'm talking to my neighbor again, just starting to think. And then one day I blocked everything out. I came in here 1-2 days. That's when I started to draw the flat Earth on there and started to think. But seriously think. And one of my things was, if it's flat, how do we explain the tides? My own observations. This is kind of how it started, right? Because if it is flat, we need to explain some shit here. And it was the moon. I know so much about the moon and the distances and just quite a fair bit of what is supposed to be with the round. And I think something made me, I wanted to know. So it was the highest tides. I started to Google tides and I had the books out and that they didn't know about the currents, and this was in 1980. They still didn't know why the currents were happening. This is a fact, it's in the books. Simon Dan laughed at me and now he's getting a book out. Now, they're books, educational. These are lies that cannot be unprinted. Like your Google, been working in NASA since 2005. Hey Oracle. Yeah. And I just started to brainstorm. There has to be an explanation for the tides. If it's flat, as far as I know, it's the freaking moon. This is the thing. My entire life thought it was round. You could see all those pics. But I still, in my head, was, before I got them out, or up until, I don't know how long ago, realised I was not being objective. I was not. I wasn't lying to myself. I didn't know I was lying to myself. That's the worry. And that is not even me being pummeled by an education system. That is me being taught to me a few times in my school years when I was a kid, and that was it. But because it followed me for all of my life, even though I never studied on it again or thought about it that much again, I just presumed that gravity, water. And then until I was like, if the moon is doing this and here's the thing. This was my own pen. I worked this out on my own, right? This is what gets me when people say, why should we trust you over the scientists and the research that's been done? Nothing that I ever do here in this shed, it's not something that is invisible to people. It's just using logic and common sense. If that is that and that can't be. But people have lost the ability to use this stuff. So I remember highest tides on Earth. I was digging everywhere. Bang, bang, bang. Bay of Fundy, and I was here I had the two globes, I was looking and I was thinking, well, the moon's here, and then remember I was going through that gravitational bulge that it showed. It's only a couple of months ago, I'm sure. I don't know, time's going so fast, it might have been a year ago. And I was starting to see, hang on a minute, my own personal observations. Gravity, moon, water, Gulf of Mexico, I'd been there with Simon Dan 2 months ago. I'm like, no. Mediterranean, I lived there. There's hardly any tides. That's where the bulge is supposed to be. You know, it's common knowledge that the big lakes and the Caspian Sea, the Black Sea, they don't budge. If that's the case, if this is moving all of the water on that, but very selective, isn't it? I can understand that the seas and that are isolated, but we have some serious bodies of water that ignore the push and the pull. So I looked at the top highest tides, boom, had them all, and I started to go, hang on a minute, and then we have this. Now, that globe right there. Now I'm just going to bring you down. Going down, Mr. Taylor? Yeah. Right, here we go. Love in an elevator. Right, so this globe on this stand, got all the degrees. At the moment, they're saying that we are in about 23.5 hour tilt. And they say the amount of water that humans have pumped and displaced over between 20, whatever, and a 15-year period has increased the actual tilt by I don't know what. Again, these claims of knowledge, stuff that I've been fighting. And again, what is that suggesting? These Mickey Mouse claims that because of the amount of water that humans have pumped and displaced on planet Earth, the tilt has gone a little bit. Look, I hear these things, right? And somebody's going to get one upside the head because these things are so illogical. And again, it's science. But that is suggesting we are round and spinning. And listen, it's one of the biggest smoking guns. Right, so you can see this is level. If it was without the angle, that's what we would look like, okay? All right. But with the 23.5, we are up like that. That's what we're doing. Now, come over here. The highest tides on Earth. Look. Where are we? So we have the Bay of Fundy, the highest tide on Earth. The second one is Ungava Bay in Quebec, right? The third highest tide, but look, when I spin, go that way, look how high these things are, right? The Bristol Channel, the third highest tides on Earth. Look how high they are. And then the Cook Inlet, Alaska. And again, look, when it spins, these things are at the top. All of them. Look. Look. Bristol. Look. So, all of a sudden, now this is when I started to, and then we've got Los Gallegos in southern Argentina. This is now I had the bug, and I started to think, well, hang on, if the moon's orbiting us by the equator, it's 30 Earth diameters away from us, why on earth are the 4 highest tides up here? And it's supposed to be orbiting us at a distance of 30 of these along the equator. How? Why? And then Gulf of Mexico, the Mediterranean Sea, there's hardly any movement, and it's closer to the equator. Then Simon Dan trying to make fun of me. Hey, Simon Dan. Sci-fi man Dan. Trying to kind of shut me down. I was like, no. It's illogical. The science is wrong. It's obviously wrong. And then I got here. I shared this journey every day. I was still posting. Right, I've done this. Bang. I've been open with my journey. I had, after the top, finding out where all the high ones were, totally logical. I want to know what this is doing, because what's happening here? I had Australia, these 2 boards. I had a dozen, at least 15 different places all over Australia with the tides, what they were doing at the same time. It's everywhere. There's no pattern to be had with this and the tides. It's impossible. And then I went through 2 or 3 weeks, top of the tide here, high tide, the moon, let's say it was up there. Then the next day, there's 2 tides, up, down, or up, down in 24 hours, or 24 hours, and give or take. It is not a perfect science, right? And anybody can do this. The moon will be up there for a high tide, but then the next high tide, 6 hours later, the moon is nowhere near. And then 12 hours later, and what you find is nothing. There's no pattern. Sometimes it is, sometimes it isn't. Now here's the thing again. I presume from my school days, it's the moon. Whenever I fished, if something was ever out slightly, you might have a fleeting thought, well, that doesn't make sense, but that's it. Well, they must know what they're talking about. I've only observing it for a half hour and it's out. It wasn't until I came to Australia 20 years ago, bought a tinny, a boat, that I really was in the water. We used to go 30 k's out. Not, mine was too small. I only went once, I think. That was crazy. 30 miles out in a little car. And the currents would come in. It wasn't even, I didn't even notice it then. I noticed it and I saw it go out the same way that it came in. But because I wasn't doing this, I wouldn't have even, high tide, here it comes. Anchor up. Sometimes I had to move because it's just too powerful, and shift positions, and then top of the tide, bang. And it would just stops. You don't, if you didn't have the anchor down, you'd still stay there unless there's wind. It just calm on a calm day at the top of the tide, in that neap tide. It's like a mirror, right? And then it does, and it drops, and it goes back the same way that it came. Back then, again, because I hadn't thought about these things, you know it's happening. Something deep down inside might be saying to you, that's a bit weird, but you don't know that it could be something else. So you just dismiss it and carry on with life. Do some fishing. I got rid of the boat a few years ago. Should really get another one, right? had to get rid of it. And I haven't been in a boat for a year or two, but I can remember everything. And then I'm here, right? And tides, boom, high tide, moon, high tide, moon, high tide, moon, high tide, boom, 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 boom. Right now, I dare say there are hundreds of high tides on Earth, hundreds everywhere. There's only one moon. So how can the moon be at the top of all of those high tides? Look, it's ridiculous. Again, my own observations. So from focusing on if Earth could be flat at the beginning of this year, or started at the end of last year, December 25, November, the last 6 months has been intense for me. And in the last 3 or 4 months, on my own observations, nobody else has worked this out. I can 100% guarantee, I stake my life on it. This doesn't have anything to do with the movement of the tides. It is not. It's illogical. It makes no sense. It's a slam dunk. Why should we trust you over the scientists? This isn't having to observe Jupiter and Io, or spinning mirrors, or shooting a beam of light 5 miles that way, bounce it off a mirror and then back this way through the teeth of a spinning wheel. What this is, all you need is a tide chart and the patience once or twice a day to look at that tide chart when the high tides are and work out where the moon is. Because tide chart, you on your own will be able to see exactly what I mean. There is no pattern, no link, no connection, no similarities, not even close to the pattern that is happening on Earth. This, no, slam dunk. Again, you don't have to trust me over the scientists. Work it out. Even though I'm telling people, you're listening to what I'm saying, and you say, why should I trust you over the hundreds and thousands of scientists that have worked this stuff out and that we've been living our lives by since who knows how long? There is no benefit in anybody just believing what I'm saying. It's a piggyback. Here's a guarantee for you. Get a tide chart closest to wherever you live and just do what I did using logic and common sense. If it's the moon, there should be a pattern. Eventually, somewhere, this stuff has been happening for how long? You'd think they'd sort a pattern out by now. But what you'll find is pure randomness, chaos. No, it's beyond illogical. It's just a no, it's impossible. It makes no sense. And that then brings us to what on earth is moving the water? It's being displaced. There's not much happening along the equator. It's a fact. It's up north. It's up north, far out. 4 highest tides, and the fifth is in Los Gallegos, in Argentina. Down there. The 5th highest tide on this planet is all the way down there. No. It's a fact. That's my journey. From not too sure, from being bombarded by a lady who sold us a camera. Doesn't work, by the way. But it was worth it. Neighbours, online, and a ton of my own observations. Not once, you saw the pics, have I ever seen any curvature. Not even a beep. Now this is the thing. I can hear the screams. Yeah, but what about... Folks, unless you have done something. This is what I did myself. It's kind of an observation. It doesn't prove that it's flat. It doesn't prove that it's flat, but it's not the gravitational pull from the moon that is shifting the water. It's massive. It's big because something else is displacing the water. And my journey to that was saying, well, how on earth are the tides moving if it's freaking flat? That is what made me. I had to, I couldn't stop because something was not making sense. It's illogical. When something is illogical, 1 + 1 was equaling 3. And now we're back to 1 + 1 = 2. But now, not knowing, something is displacing the water on Earth. Something is displacing the water on Earth. And see, now I am going beyond where I have been. I have been in my mind, but I haven't really done what I am about to do. I talked about it once because I put those tacks in. Right? Another reason, so this blew my mind. That's right, because of this. Where are they? Oh no, can't find them. The pyramids, you know, the pics that I have that clearly show that they have been submerged. Right, that is another one. It's my journey, remember? I slam dunked years ago, that the pyramids have been submerged for a long time. I know, it doesn't matter what anybody else says. And I've always been saying that. The one thing I could never understand, it was an illogical, a kind of illogical slam dunk, right? Because this is true. This is true. I saw they've been submerged. They're ancient, 4,500 years old. The Egyptians, it's the insult to people's intelligence. Slam dunk, they've been submerged. I said, you can see the freaking tide mark on the top of Giza. The top of Giza was the only thing sticking out of the water. Slam dunk. The rest of it was submerged, all of them. The top of Giza, at one time in history, was a bird haven. Slam dunk. It would have been, because it was the only thing sticking out of the water for a fair distance. Slam dunk. But when I slam dunked it, I kept saying to myself, where the fuck did the water come from? Because it's a long time. You can see that it's been submerged for a long time. It didn't make sense on the globe. But I slam dunked it years ago. 5, 6, 7, I don't know, a long time ago. This year, or last year, it was one of the things that pushed me, because I put the two together. I'm getting goosebumps. The pyramids, a flat earth. The water, a flood. It can't work on a spinning planet. It cannot. Where does that amount of water come from to submerge the pyramids for quite some time, right? But the Egypt, no, trust me, I trust my own judgment. Here we are again. Why do you, it doesn't matter that people trust me over anybody. It's not if everybody could see things logically, rational thought processes, 1 + 1 = 2, people would see what I see. This is why it's difficult. It really is, to see things so clearly. And everybody go, you're a conspiracy theorist. Like, fucking hell, you can see the lies. But no. Nah, they haven't been submerged. That's freaking earthquake damage. Abrasive sand as the wind was blowing on the north, south, east, west faces of Giza. Lightning strikes. These are the things. The amount of arguments not arguments, but abuse that I've had. It's, everybody knows it was Napoleon Bonaparte and cannonballs. Are we looking at the same thing? But people are believing it. You can't explain to them, even showing them the freaking pictures. How is that Bonaparte doing that? Or lightning, or abrasive sand, as the wind's blowing? This is what I don't get. People are seeing the stuff. No delay, but still. No. There's a Photon Express. There it is, look. There's a big massive delay of 2.08 degrees. There isn't. Does it make a difference? Well, I don't know. It depends how important people think lying about going to the moon is, or science fairs and all of the electrons and photons and light years and black holes and gravitational waves and LIGO and LIDAR and relativity. All of it relies on all of it. Settle. Meters per second. 299,792,458 meters per second. Some people think spinning mirrors. Work that out, folks. And another thing, I have been fighting this science tooth and nail before this, I'm freaking out. I was living in Perry Street or Barolin. That's how I kind of gauge where I've been, by where I was living and what I had to. I remember at Barolin, I drew a map of the world on the wall. And that was before Jabiroos. 2021, 2020. Look, I've been doing this for a long time, okay? And everything I've been fighting, I didn't understand. I didn't know there was a flat earth, really. Pyramids, bam, slam dunk, they've been submerged. That doesn't make sense though, but I slam dunked it anyway. And then it all came together, bang. That's the flat earth, right? What we have is right, 43, right, we'll probably do the hour thing. Remember, this is my journey. People think, well, flat earthers, fucking idiot. You have no idea what critical thinking is. It's all good and well to believe science, right? But I, in a 48-hour period, totally trashed the moon having anything to do with El Agua. It's impossible, right? It doesn't. So they are lying again, but lies that people should be able to work out themselves with the piggyback. US, South America, Africa, Australia, Asia, India, right? Europe. Now, look at this, right? So where are we? Cook Inlet, Alaska. I didn't finish drawing that properly, but you know what I mean. Bay of Fundy, and then where's the other ones gone? Some have fallen out. That would have been there somewhere. Which is Ungava Bay in Quebec. Oh, that come out. And then we have Cook Inlet. Oh look, some of them have fallen out. The Bristol Channel, right? So all of these are the 5 highest tides, the 4 on Earth. Now look where they are, right? Here's 1, 2, Ungava Bay. There, right? And then way down here we have Los Gallegos, Argentina. Now, the equator, red, this is where you would expect tides. And the moon goes that way. It doesn't, it's really going that way because we're spinning faster than it gives the impression of going that way. Equator, this is where the action should be. Most of it, right? But hardly anything happening in the Gulf of Mexico. Tides, it's almost a dead zone. The Mediterranean, again, it's almost a dead zone. But up here, the 4, and we're talking high, we're not talking, that's not bad. It's the highest, violent tides even. Nothing to do with where the moon is. That one, look, there's this thing. They say that something, or there's rivers that go, I don't know where they are exactly, but something water comes in and it's got to drain somewhere. Look, it makes sense that somewhere water is being displaced, and wherever you are on Earth, when that tide is coming up, doesn't matter where you are, me here, and it comes from the north. It's been out there, I know, because the tide, we're facing out, and from the north, always, the water comes up, will stop for a spell, and then when it drops back towards the north. I cannot comment everywhere else, but that is what happens here on the east coast of Australia. Doesn't matter how far out you go, when the tide comes in that way, comes up, stops, and then goes back the same way. How is that the moon doing that? Look, we can't keep going back to the things that are not. It's difficult because I want to get my point across. People need to understand how important these things are, right? Nothing's going to change where we live now, but it's not about us. It's about understanding that when something is not true and you can verify it very easily by observations alone, then the other questions are, well, if that gravity has, the moon does not have any gravitational pull on the water. So the obvious questions are, I always keep saying, that doesn't prove that there is not 1/6 of gravitational pull on the moon. But you have to use common sense as well here. It's highly unlikely that there is no gravitational pull from the moon on the water. And for some reason, there is gravitational pull, 1/6 of Earth's on the moon. The things that me on my own have dug and found because I needed to know, because 1 + 1 always equals 2. And when it doesn't, there's a reason for it. I just used to accept it. Times I was fishing and noticed this stuff, because I'd always noticed it, but because you don't think there is an alternative, you don't even think about it. Like when I was looking out the windows, if I had known that there was a chance it could be flat, but even years later, I wasn't objective enough to understand I had seen no curvature, and it wasn't until I dug and remember the planes coming towards us, I thought it would be coming up. We would be going like that. 8 centimeters per kilometer. Shoom, shoom. Combined speed of 1,600 kilometers per hour. Nobody walks upside down. No plane. It only has a diameter of 12,742 kilometers. If there was a curvature drop of 8 centimeters in a kilometer, you would notice it when you were flying either south or north. And east and west. You'd be freaking sideways. Look, these are the common sense ones, right? It's all very well and good to say, yeah, but how would this work? Or let's just back the horses up. Can we talk about the obvious ones? Science has made people say, prove it. Prove it isn't so. You cannot prove to people that something did not happen. It's illogical to even ask, but I hear it every single day. Listen, folks, you've been lied to on a scale that you cannot. It's a Netflix movie, for crying out loud. Have we not all seen the Netflix movies? So we should all know what to do. Lock and load, baby. Give me a tune, Oracle. Give me a tune. Let's just have a relaxation session, just for 15 seconds or so. All right? Let's just relax. So, folks, so much to try and cram into. I try to get as many angles over as I can, right? I cannot see one single reason why, with the information and the observations that most people can make, right? But why people are fighting so hard against a flat earth. There is a wedge right between a massive group of people, because to believe the moon landings and everything space, you cannot believe this. But moon, gravity, water, no. So straight away, it's a big one. Who? Newton. Gravity. Agua. Water. Tides. Newton. Light. Newton. Anybody? Pattern? Bueller? Folks, me, I see everything for what it is. So, it's obvious to me. Somewhere in the 1961, there's something about the tides, and they say in there. And something BC, somebody got on a boat and went to somewhere and noticed something and agreed with somebody else that it was the moon doing the tides. It's in one of the encyclopedias, 1961. How can that be? How can that be? This is it as well, see? It's written. This stuff is written in encyclopedias. But in 48 hours brainstorming with my own observations, I have just totally destroyed science that we believe for so many years. And this is the bit that people may not understand because it's too heavy to understand. Why should we believe you? I've shown you what I've done. You can see where the high tides are. It doesn't make sense, folks. No amount of things that they tell me about the tides and the moon would ever stick, because I have a brain and I've worked it out myself. It's quite clear and obvious that the moon, honestly, nothing. Hey, Oracle. All right. I'll add one little thing to the end of this story. 15 years ago, up to 12 years ago, I was a massive footy fan out here, right? NRL, rugby league, the Broncos and the Cowboys, and massive fan. Loved it. In pubs, I was one of those, get on my knees, yeah! When one of the boys, Lockyer scored or something like that. Loved it. Lived for the Friday night games. Not lived for it, but you know, it was a massive part of my life. This afternoon, I've got a text notification on my phone, sports bet. Boom, boom, boom. Match bonus. Deposit 25, get 25 in free bets. Tonight's opening Origin game. First try scorers. I didn't even know that it's Origin tonight. 15 years ago, I knew every name in our team, on the bench, the opposite team, the opposite bench, the coaches, everything. Today, I get goosebumps again. I didn't even know that one of the biggest games there is in this country, rugby league, the first Origin, the opener, is being played tonight. You know why? Because there comes a time, with everything that's going on, you realise that it benefits the government more than it does the people watching it. Because it's a distraction. It's like the Rome, the thing they used to say, the Colosseum. The gladiators, entertain the people. Are you not entertained? It distracts the people. Of course it's good sport, but maybe when everything else is sorted out, we can stop and play games. That's how, it's just a personal, I didn't even know that something that I used to kind of live for. The first game out of 3 is on tonight. And I didn't even, I wouldn't know a single name of a single player in the Brisbane Broncos team. Is that not something? You may not think it is, but it is, because we change. If we knew back then what we know now, but it's not structured that way, we are entertained till we get to this age, and then we go, hang on, everybody, and nobody listens. That's the way the system is structured. Isn't it, Oracle? All right, folks, listen, it's been great fun. There's my dinger from one of my tumblers. That reminds me, look, what have we got? Half a minute. You know the rocks I'm doing? I've got some crackers coming out. Hang on. Some obviously still need loads of work and stuff, but it's awesome. Like, these were just rocks from the beach, but put them in and get them all smoothed up, right? So a bit of work on that one, but some really cool rocks. These were all rough, but when they're tumbled, you've got all like, so hopefully these will all polish up. See, I've got a bit of a hole, so I've got to get that on the grinder. But honestly, even this, I have trouble finding time, because they'll come up nice. I've got like loads on the go now, but again, I haven't been last 2-3 days. I've got all like trying to wake up, people. I need vacation. Yeah. All right. Buenas noches, peeps. And remember, we've got to think for ourselves. That's all there is to it. All right, folks, laters.